Hey everybody. Sorry for the delay. I was having trouble getting my camera hitched up, but we're good now. What I want to do today is I want to take, I want to make an armhole. What am I saying? I want to make a sleeve for, a sleeve for the mini DittoForm, and I was going to work on it, just put it right here. I was going to work on it, the small one, and then, wait a minute, I'm sorry, let me just clamp her on so she doesn't fall down here. Okay. And my metal stand is getting rehabbed. Hold on one second. Just tighten this. Okay. All right, now you can see them both. Okay, sorry about that. My metal stand is, I need to shorten it. So we have a wooden stand. The wooden stand doesn't keep my mini standing up straight. So there you are. I have it clamped to my table. So if you remember last week, we tested taking the mini or half scale pattern, blowing it up 200%, and then creating the full size. And I made some fitting adjustments, like adding ease in the side front to fit the bust. So today what we're going to do is we're going to draft a sleeve. And initially I wanted to draft the small sleeve and then blow it up. But to draft a sleeve, you need a bicep and cap height measurement. So I'm going to make the sleeve for the full size DittoForm, and we'll then reduce it 50%, and next week we'll try it on the half scale. So that's what we're going to do today. Let me just say hi to everyone. Hi Pat, hi Diane, hi Victoria, who's getting a new heating system in her house. Congratulations on that. I know that's probably a pain, but hopefully it'll be nice and warm. Mary is saying that there's someone in the Facebook group who has a question about a full front thigh. I will check that out when I get off. Thank you for giving me an update. I did go through there yesterday afternoon and posted some suggestions based on some of the things in there. I am very excited to see so many people in the Facebook group asking questions. I think that's very cool. And I have a number of really good pattern fitters helping me. So I have Kay and Sasha Soist who'll come in and help moderate those questions. But I will come in and look at that later. Hi Polly, welcome. Hi Janie. All right, so what we're going to do today is we're going to draft a sleeve. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to draft a sleeve with a elbow dart, because an elbow dart allows you to make a more fitted sleeve with less ease. So I thought I would want to play around with that. I haven't made a a sleeve with an elbow dart for myself, but I think that will be fun. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to switch my view to my table shot here. And I've got my paper all ready to go. And let me just make sure I am going to change my lighting so it's not so bright. And then let me make sure I have like a perfect, want to make sure we're nice and clear here. This is a copy of my thank you note. All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to draft a sleeve on this piece of paper. I have my my bodice pieces underneath here because I'm going to walk it after. But what we're going to do to start is we are going to draft a sleeve. So I'm going to start out by making a center line here. So let's go ahead and make a center line. So the center line is going to be the middle of my sleeve. It's also going to be my sleeve length. Okay, and then after I have that line, I am going to slide this whole thing forward. We're going to work on the cap section first. Okay, that's what we're going to do first. So the first thing I want to do is mark the top of the cap. So I'm just going to go ahead and make this the top of my cap. So I'm going to go ahead and draw myself a line right here. Okay, and then I'm going to measure down from this top of the cap down the height of my measurement for my cap. So my cap is 6 inches. So if you're wondering what that is, I just want to show you here. I've shown this a few different times in a few different places, but basically what you want to do is you want to measure from the tip of your shoulder where your armhole seam would be down to where your bicep is. And if you think about it, your bicep is like right, I would say 2 fingers width from your armpit down. And then if you measure across from there, it's going to be the distance between that bicep where my hand is up to the, on your shoulder where you can feel that joint moving. So that's how you find the cap height. And for me, it's going to be 6 inches. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to measure down 6 inches and make a mark. And I'm using this alphanumeric paper, which has a grid in it. So I can use the grid to also make my like horizontal lines perpendicular to my vertical line really easily. So this is going to be my bicep line. Okay, so this is bicep. So I'm just going to go ahead and mark. This is the bicep line here. This is the well, that's the top of the cap. I'm not going to label that. All right, so that gives us the setup to draft the bell-shaped curve that we need for the cap. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to decide how long our bicep line is going to be. And to do that, I need a tape measure, which I'm sure I have one right here. All right, so this tape measure right here, I don't know if I showed this to you guys yet. This tape measure is the tape measure that was in my Singer Featherweight box, and I love it. It's just like this old wide tape measure. So I'm going to go ahead and measure my bicep like this. So again, this will give you a pretty good idea of, where that should be. So like about there. So I'm going to measure that. And my bicep measures, let me put it on this way so I can see. It's always a challenge when you have to measure yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and say my bicep measures 12 inches, really 11 3/4. So I want a little bit of ease in my cap. So let's say if my bicep is 12 inches, so me is 12 inches, let's add 2 inches of ease. So that's going to be 14 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark from the center out 7 inches on each side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 puts me right at the end of the paper right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 right here. So this is going to be the length of my bicep line for this. So I've got 2 inches of ease. I'm going to put here 2 inches of ease at the bicep. Okay, so that's the basic framework for drafting a sleeve. Now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to connect your bicep, the end of your bicep line, to the middle of the cap like this. I'm going to use a different pen here. Okay. This is one of my friction pens, so if I want to erase this later, I can. All right, so I've drawn 2 lines from the bicep to the top, bicep to top. This is going to be my back. This is going to be my front of my sleeve. Then the next thing we're going to do is we are going to mark, I mean, we could mark the bottom of the sleeve. Let's do that later. So let's do the whole cap right now. So for the cap, we are going to divide our diagonal lines into quarters. So I have 9 inches here basically. So that would be 9 inches divided by 4 would be 2 1/4. So each section is going to be 2 1/4. This is why I have my friction pen, so I can erase if I need to. So I'm going to go ahead and do 1 2 1/4, and then I'm going to do 1 2 1/4, 1 2 1/4, and this should leave me 1 2 1/4. So I've got my diagonal line there, and then I'm going to also do that on this side. It's the same measurement. So 2 1/4, 2 1/4, and 2 1/4. So I've got my quarters marked. That's the next step. And then if anybody has any questions about drafting, you know, please let me know, you know, if you have questions about what I'm doing here. The next thing we want to do is create a guide, which we will then use to make that bell-shaped curve. So over here, the sleeve is going to be under this diagonal line. Then it's going to pop up above, right? Then it's going to come back down below again to the end. So what I want to do is I want to write some guidelines, and the first one, you know, if I were to label these, let's label these A, B, C, D, E, and F. So A and F are the 2 first lines that would be where the line or the cap would be below. And what I want you to notice here is on my A, I'm going to dip down 3/8 of an inch. So basically what I want to do here is, and I'm going to make, let's use a different color. Let me see, what color do I have that's going to be good. Oh, I'll see if the light blue shows. I just want to make different colors so you can see. So basically now this is going to be 3/8 of an inch, like this. And I think I can zoom in so you can see what I'm doing here. There, I think that's better. So this right here is 3/8 of an inch, and I'm going to make like a little T, like this. And over on this side, if this is 3/8 of an inch, you may be familiar with the fact that the front of your cap actually curves in a little bit deeper in the front to fit around your bust. So in the front, it's going to be a 1/2 inch, so 1/8 of an inch deeper. So this is 1/2. This is 3/8. Then on the next ones, so for the next one, we're gonna go up because we're going down and then we're coming up. So we're gonna go up. And actually, I'm going to make this mark a little less. I'm going to get rid of these so they're not so dark. So for the middle line, I am going to go out 1/4. Okay, so in the back we're going out 1/4. In the front we're going to go out 3/16. So 3/16 is a little bit less than 1/4. So we dip deeper in the front. We don't pop out as high above this diagonal in the front. We want the back to be a little higher here than the front. So I'm going to go ahead and do 1/4 right here at B. And we're going to do 3/16 at F. So 3/16 is like 3/4 of 1/4. So it's a little bit shorter. Okay, so we have 1/4 here, and we have 3/16 here, okay? And in our final C and D, C is going to be 5/8 and D is going to be 3/4. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this out 3/4. So that's going to come out to here. This is 3/4, and this is 5/8 in the back over here. All right, so I've got my guidelines. Now, the next step is kind of a fun step, and this is where, you know, you can do different things to get your final answer. But basically, you're going to dash out, hit this 3/8, and then you're going to cross over and get to that like that. So you can see I'm sort of making a little S shape right there. And then on this side, I'm going to come back down. Let's start over here. So we're going to curve in a little bit deeper to here. And then we're going to come to this 1/4. And then we're going to come out to here. And we're going to end up like that. And another thing I like to do is use my bendable ruler to create a curve like this. And if I do it like this, so see what I'm doing? I'm actually creating the shape of my cap. Now I can't hold it myself and do the whole thing, but I can hold half of it like this. And if you practice, I can literally hold this half and draw a curve and then draw it over here. Or you can use a French curve. Let me get my little French curve. So like we can use this to draw these in. So I'm going to start over here and I'm just going to create a smooth line from here to here. And now I'm going to use my green like that. And then I'm going to finish it up like this. So I'm going to start coming, oops, I want to be kind of gradual here. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to finish that like that. Okay. And then on this side, I can get this and I can go like this. To get the back of the sleeve, and then I'm just going to connect this like this. All right, so you can see now I have created a bell shape. Polly's asking, where do I get these fractions to create my curve line? I'm following the Helen Joseph Armstrong drafting book. That's what I use as a guide. Now, these will get you started. We may need to adjust this pattern to fit my actual armhole though. So this is going to get us close, and then we're gonna walk the sleeve onto the armhole and see if we need to add or change the ease in the cap. So we will be working on that some more. All right, so now that I've drafted the top of the cap, you can see how that looks. This is really a nice, fun, basic pattern piece to draft when you're just getting started, because it's, you know, it's got some, you know, different fractions to it. It's got curved lines. It's got straight lines. I really enjoy drafting a sleeve. All right, so then the next step is we need to mark, you know, make the rest of the sleeve down here. Now my sleeve is 25 inches. So we have, this is 18 inches, and then 19, 20, 21, 22. I think I'm going to call it at 23 for this. I can lengthen it more later. I don't want to have this giant sleeve here, but basically this would be, well, I guess I can unfold the paper and make it the full length here. All right, we're going to have to extend the line a little bit here because I have a long arm. Okay, so then we're going to, again, we'll measure from here is 18, and then, so 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So here would be my final, or my wrist. So I'm going to go ahead and make a line there. Now we're going to want to decide what our wrist measurement is. I'm going to use 8 inches for that because I have, or I'm sorry, 9 inches. I'm going to use 9 inches for that because I have also a pretty wide wrist. Let's just measure it. Well, actually, my wrist measures 7 inches. So we're going to go with 8 inches for an inch of ease at the wrist. So that means I'm going to measure out 4 inches here, and 1, 2, 3, 4 inches here. Okay. And then we can connect this with this. So this would be a basic sleeve draft would be, you know, this is all we really need for a basic sleeve draft, but we're going to put in that elbow dart. So let me just draw this. Okay, so that's the basic sleeve shape. Let me make it bigger so you can see. Oh, maybe this is slightly too basic sleeve. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to go from here, from from our bicep line down to the elbow is halfway. So halfway between here and here would be the elbow. So I'm going to go ahead and measure what that is. So this is 18, 19 inches. So that's 8.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and mark 8.5 inches, which will be right here. So this is going to be my elbow, like this. And of course, if this isn't exactly my elbow, I can lengthen or shorten it, but just starting out with the middle of the distance between the bicep and the wrist. Then what we're going to do is we are going to mark from the elbow, we are going to mark down 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to mark down 3/4 of an inch, and I'm basically just going to make a dot here. Okay. And then we are going to, I'm turning the page so I can see how to draft my elbow dart. So we've got the elbow, the little dot at the elbow that I drew. What we're going to do is we are going to extend out 1/4 inch at the elbow line like this. So I'm going to come out here and extend that. Oh, maybe I should do this in a different color. Well, that's all right. I'm going to keep it there. Okay, and so then what we're going to do is we are going to measure in 1/2 of the distance between here and here. So between our underarm seam and here measures, let's say it measures 5.5. So that's going to be 2.5 plus 1/4, 2 3/4. I'm going to make a mark there, 2 3/4. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to measure a 1-inch dart. So that means from this line right here, I'm going to measure down 1 inch. Just going to make a guide like this. I'm just going to put a little dot right here. All right, so this is really interesting to me because we're going to draw this dart shape in like this. Okay, so see how I've drawn the dart? And I really want it to be a different color. Because what I want to point out to you guys is, if you just draw in a dart like this and leave it, you haven't really created a dart that you haven't like brought in the extra fabric to actually create a dart. Drawing a V shape does not create a dart. You have to actually add fabric or drop it or do something to get it to actually be a dart. So to finish this up, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to connect my cap, underarm seam at the top of the cap down to the to there. So see, I've pushed that out a 1/4 inch. And then down here, what we're going to do is we're going to shift this side of the wrist to over 3/4 inch. And again, this is just an industry standard. I'm also going to drop it a 1/4. So we're going to go from down 1/4 like this. And then I'm going to connect the end of the dart with the bottom of that 1/4 inch. And you're going to see what that does is it lengthens or drops the wrist to here. So we're making it longer. And then to put the measurement back at my wrist, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out 3/4 inch to make that a full 8 inches again. So, because remember, we had 8 inches here. We want this to be 8 inches. So I don't even have to measure. I can just start measuring right here and bring this right up past so I get the 8 inches. But I want to stop on the wrist line. So notice we're dropping this down. So when we do the dart, it will straighten up. So this will actually pull back up when we close the dart here, and that's how we're creating the dart. So then this just blends in to the elbow. So on this side, we're just going to blend right into the elbow like this. So if you look at this diagram or this pattern that I drafted here, the green would be just a standard sleeve. So if you just wanted the standard sleeve, you would draw your cap, make your fraction guidelines, and then draw your bell shape, and then draw your length of your sleeve, the width of your wrist, and then just draw your underarm seams. Then if you want to add an elbow dart, what we're doing is we're pushing it out a 1/4 on this side, making a 1-inch dart, which is half the length of half of the elbow. So whatever half the elbow is, it's half of that. So a 1/4 of the elbow measurement is what the length of the dart is. Then you come down a 1/4 and then you blend back up to the what am I trying to say? To the original wrist line here, and that makes your completed sleeve with a dart. So now what we're going to do is we are going to walk this to see if it matches our armhole that we drafted, well actually that we blew up last week for the full-size DittoForm. And I'm just going to cut some of this extra paper away. I don't want to cut all the paper away because I do want to add seam allowances here, but I am going to just get rid of a little bit of paper like this just to make it a little bit easier to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the back. Now remember, this does not have any seam allowance, and this does not have seam allowance. So I'm going to use this edge of this pattern, and I'm going to walk it right along here. Now here's what I want to say about this. What I want you to notice here is, this is my 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm just going to fold that back. The reason why I'm folding that back is because there's no seam allowance here yet, right? So I have to line up the base of my armhole with the beginning of the cap. And a sign of a sleeve that's going to like to sew together is if the curve of your armhole matches this curve or is close to this curve. And you can see I can line this right up like this, and my entire I gotta get my stiletto. Hold on one second. I'll just use this. Okay, so you can see from here to here, both lines are matching. Then I'm going to start to pivot. So see how I'm pivoting the edge of the armhole to match my cap that I drew. Because remember, there's no seam allowances on any of this. All right, so I can clearly see that this cap is going to be way too small for this armhole. Now I'm going to fold back the 1/2 inch up here too, like this. So basically that's going to put this right here. I can see I'm going to be in trouble. So this is my back. My back stops way over there. So I can tell already I'm going to have negative ease on this. So I drafted a really small sleeve. So we're going to have to figure out how we're going to get this to fit. Let me push back my seam allowance here so I can line this up. Okay, and again, it matches to there. I had a feeling in my mind that this would be a small cap. I mean, it looked pretty small. Oh yes, we are going to need to do some major renovation to this. Okay, so my front is right here. So you can see we have some serious work we have to do to the sleeve to get it to fit this armhole. Now, I think the reason why this sleeve cap is so small is because it's not really taking into consideration, this cap was, like I said to Polly, a industry standard in terms of you know, making the shape. I think the width is going to be a little narrow for me because I have a pretty wide cap. So the first thing I'm going to do is give myself a 1/2 inch of ease in my cap. My cap measures 6 inches, but you can add some ease to the cap. So what I'm going to do first to give myself more is I'm going to cut the pattern and spread so the cap is a 1/2 inch higher, and then we're going to have to add ease or width to the cap, because if I were to measure, let me show you another measurement I like to take. It's hard to take by yourself, but I'm going to attempt to do it here. Let me switch my view. So like if I take my tape measure, and I'm just going to feel for the armhole in the back, and I'm going to walk it right around to the armhole in the front. So basically what I'm trying to capture is the outside of my bicep. So if I turn this way so you can see, actually I think it'd be better if I do it this way. So from this side, if I measure the outside of my arm right there. And I'm only measuring from armhole to armhole across the outside. So I'm just feeling for my armhole back here. I have about 8 inches, you know, from armhole around the outside of my arm to the other armhole is almost 8 inches. So if I don't know why that shut off. If I go over here and I draw a line approximately, let's say, I don't know, 2.5 inches from the top of my cap, somewhere like right here. This is approximately where I measured around the outside of my arm. Okay. I'm only at 6 3/4, so I know that this is not going to be wide enough to fit around the outside of my arm. So I have to add like 1.25 inches to make that. So let's start by, and my bicep line is 14. It's a little, yeah, it's just 14. I probably could stand a slight more amount of ease in my bicep too, but I was going for a really snug sleeve. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut here. Let's cut at the top quarter since I have a guide. So right around the top quarter down to here. And let's go here. Okay, so I'm drawing 2 L-shaped guidelines that run through the bicep into the underarm seam, like that. Oh, Mary is saying, speaking of cloth tape measures, every once in a while compare it to a metal tape measure. Those cloth and plastic measures like to stretch. Ooh, let's try that right now, Mary. Well, this one is spot on, and it's really old, so this must be a good one because that is spot on across multiple inches. But that's a really good tip, Mary. Thank you. All right, it wouldn't have occurred to me to test it to see if it was you know, stretching. That's a really good tip. All right, so I'm going to cut through here. And I'm going to cut to my underarm seam, but I'm not going to cut through it. I'm going to make a pivot. And I might as well just do both of them. Like this. All right. And then I'm going to need some scraps of paper, which I have handy right here. And we are going to fill in these areas. So what I'm going to do is, let me turn this back around like this. Just move it like this so you can see what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this paper and I'm going to stick it under here like this. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw, what am I saying? Not draw. I'm going to tape it down in the center like this. All right, and then I'm going to take the second piece of paper and I'm going to put it over here. I'm going to tape that down. All right, so now, if I needed 1.25 inches, that means I need to spread each side 5/8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and give myself 5/8 over here, which puts me like right here, and 5/8 over here, which puts me somewhere over here. So I can spread that like this. Okay. And I'm going to tape that down. And actually this will also, I think I'm just going to use this adjustment to also raise the cap. So I'm doing this first because when I true up the differences here, I can also raise my cap. And then what we'll do is we'll re-walk it and see where we are. But basically I'm spreading those each 5/8 to give myself the distance I need around the outside of my bicep to fit my arm. Oops. No. I'm gonna have to order more Scotch tape. I'm almost out of my Scotch tape. Okay. All right, so now I think what I'm gonna do is just gonna go like this. So at the very top, I'm adding about a 1/2 inch right there, but basically I'm just truing it up by using this new wider position of my cap, like that. Okay, so you can see I've added all of this, and all of this. So I think pushing it out like that, this cap looks like it's a lot more Jennifer friendly in terms of a fit. So let's re-walk this now and see where we are. So let me just cut off this extra paper here. And let's walk this. So let's start in the back again. Marilyn says, I understand some tape measures are made from fiberglass, which should not stretch like cheaper made ones. Oh, that's another good point. I have no idea what this is made out of, but you can see it's really old. The outside of it is flaking. It feels really substantial. I like this tape measure. I really like it. The company is Dean. I've never heard. Oh, it's made in England. Made in England. But I really like this tape measure. All right, so let's go ahead and see where we are ease-wise now. So I'm just walking it along again. That's going to bring us much closer. Okay, so now our back is right here. This is the back, this line right here. And then let's see the front. Nope, we still have, I don't know how that's even possible. Well, front is here. Well, we significantly closed. So you can see here, I did add, this is 5/8 of a difference between my original front and the new front. And my back was like, where was my back? Way over here. Yeah, my back is also 5/8 difference, but it's still not, I still have negative ease. So let me just draw my cap. Let me draw my bicep line and remeasure what that is here. So this measures 6.5. I really don't want to push that up higher than 6.5 inches because my cap is 6 plus a little. So I really don't want to push that out anymore. Now, did I get my 8 inches here? Oh, see, I'm not even 8 inches yet. I'm still shy of 8 inches. So I think what I'm going to do to make it a little bit wider is, I think I'm going to, I am going to cut the pattern all the way to the wrist. And I'm going to make a pivot at the wrist edge, and I'm going to spread this a little bit, and then I'm going to add a quarter to each underarm seam. That's how I'm going to get this to fit me and my sleeve. All right, so let me just get some strips of paper in here. So I'm going to go ahead and tape just to one side. Victoria's saying, could you stand your measuring tape on edge and measure your sleeve and armholes to compare them? You absolutely can measure. If you don't want to walk your sleeves into your sleeve cap into your armhole, you can definitely measure them. I think that takes longer, so I prefer to walk it because I think it's quicker and it's very accurate because you're walking along the edge. But you definitely can measure if you would like to. And I did share that digital measurer, which that I packed up and brought to Kentucky with me, and it's somewhere in my stuff. But you could use the digital measuring tool too to do that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just tape it on one side. Then I'm going to swing it back in so that it's, let's spread it. I'm going to spread it the amount I need to get to no ease. So that's going to be 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to spread this 3/4 of an inch like this. And I'm going to make a line, and then I'm going to basically line this up like this. Now, I am not at all surprised that I needed to bust open this pattern. I have a massive arm, and I'm going for as small or as fitted as I can get. So I went a little overboard in my, well, I went a very conservative in my bicep measurement and just adding that little bit of ease, but it doesn't surprise me that I needed to blow out this cap to fit my shoulder. I have a very large shoulder. I think I refer to them as linebacker shoulders. Now you'll notice down here I did not change the width of the wrist. That still is 8 inches. I pivoted here. Okay, but you can see I added the 3/4 there. So now I know, because I can measure this and I could measure how much ease I had, I know that that's going to fit exactly now. So the last thing I'm going to do here is I am just going to get a 1/2 inch of ease in this cap. I don't like a lot of ease in my cap because my cap is already fitting, you know, it's wrapping around the ball of my shoulder. I don't need a ton of ease at this point because I've already blown it out. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself a 1/4 inch more over here, which will add a 1/4 inch here, like this. And then I'm just going to draw this down like this. Okay. And I'm going to add a 1/4 inch over here as well. And then I should have, that should be plenty for this sleeve. And of course I need a little, just a little piece of paper here. So I am going to extend this one out a 1/4. And I'm just going to bring this like this. Okay, so Bev says, hi from BC, everyone. Jen, this is perfect timing, just what I need when I need it. Oh, I'm so glad that I was able to do something when you needed it. I love that. All right, so this is my entire completed cap now. I'm just going to make the whole thing in red so you can see the finished shape. And I think this now looks like something that would fit me. All right, so that is my completed cap. I like the way that looks. I've got the extra ½ inch there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a ½ inch seam allowance around this edge. I want to cut this out so I can fold it in half and make sure the back is a little bit higher than the front. Remember I said the back should be a little bit higher than the front when you fold it in half. So we want to check that. So what I'm going to do is, and I don't want to cut it on the edge and then add lots of paper here. I just want to add the right amount of paper I need to, and actually just to make it nice and neat, because I'm getting a really yucky thing going, I'm just going to cut all this extra paper off up here like that. And then I'm just going to stick this paper underneath like this so I can add a ½ inch seam allowance like this. Oh, we do have to walk it one more time though, because I have to figure out where my notches are. But let me just add my seam allowance first. So I'm going to add a ½ inch all the way around. Okay. All right, so here's my ½ inch. ½ inch. And then I'm just going to give myself a ½ inch all the way down here. ½ inch. And then I'm going to add my ½ inch over here, which it looks like I'm going to need another little piece of paper, so I'm going to cut this off. Okay, and then I can use, I just need a little scrap right here. I'm definitely making a Frankenstein pattern today, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so then let me just add my ½ inch here. ½ inch all the way down. And I'm going to do a ½ inch right here. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to sew in, or I'm going to fold my dart like that. So my dart is lining up. And then when I cut it out, it will give me the right shape I need. So now, I'm just going to cut this out. And see, that gives me the shape I need for the dart. So see how there's a little bit of shaping there? All right. And then I'm going to tape this and cut this out. Okay, so now I have a sleeve, and I'm going to fold it in half. just want to check that. So I'm going to, oh, let me put some paper back here. Let me just tape some of the back of my mess here so it doesn't come undone. And I fold it in half. Okay. All right, so I'm going to fold this in half. Just up here, I just want to see if my cap, so you can see the back side of my cap is, well, it needs to be a little higher. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to just shave down a little of my front, just ever so slightly, like this, because it just needs to be a little bit higher. So now you can see, if we look at it from the front, you can see the back sticks up that little bit higher, and it's also less filled in over here. Okay, so this is the back here and the front. So I like the way the shape of the cap is. Now let's just walk it one more time to get our notches settled. And this time I can leave my seam allowance open because there's a seam allowance there too. So I'm unfolding the seam allowance, and we're going to go ahead and put notches. So right where it starts to break, that's where my notches are going to go, like right here. Okay, so from there to there. And then we'll just keep walking it. Now I'm walking it on my stitching line though, which I can see through the paper. Okay. All right, so that puts my back a little bit farther back, like right here. So now it's there. Now let me see where my front is. Oh my God, this thing is still not big enough. I'm going to snap. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so wait a minute. That's why. Okay, so this does not have a seam allowance. So I still have to do it over here. I'm sorry. That's how that got to be an issue. So this is really going to be right here. Sorry. So I have to walk the edge of this onto the stitching line, because otherwise I'm not comparing apples to apples here. All right, that makes better sense. All right, so now my back, let me use the other color, is where my front was. That makes better sense. Okay, so this is my back now, right here where that long line is. And then my front, again, we're going right on the stitching line. Right here. All right, so it's actually right next to my back. All right, so now, after doing all of that work, adding the little quarters over here was not enough, because I still have, my cap now equals my cap now equals my armhole. So let me just measure this one more time. Yeah, see, that's 8.5. So I could push that out a little bit more because my measurement was 8. You know, I could have a little bit more ease in there. So I think what I'm just going to do is spread this another 1/2 inch because I don't want to add, my bicep line is 15.25, which is 2.25 inches of ease. So I want to do the least amount of thing possible so I'm not going to add it at the bicep line. I'm going to spread this one more time, a 1/2 inch, and that will give me the 1/2 inch of ease. And if I spread this, I'm going to spread it. If I spread it right here where both the armholes are lining up, then I know my notch will be right in the middle of it, right there. It'll be in the middle of my spread, if that makes sense. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I'll be able to sew this thing together. So I'm going to cut this like this. I'm going to do it right where both my front and back caps meet, because then I don't have to walk it again. I'll know where the shoulder notch goes. So I'm just going to go like this, straight down to the here. All right, and I'm literally going to put a little paper in there. And I'm just going to spread it a 1/2 inch. And that will give me a 1/2 inch of ease, which, considering how much I am pushing this cap out, should be plenty. So I'm just going to tape this like this. See, and then by the time I get to the bicep line, I'm pushing it out less than a 1/2 inch. That's why I did it up at the cap. All right. All right, so anyone who wants to hang out with me, I know we're getting to be at about an hour, but I really want to test this now, so I'm going to sew it together and see if it fits my armhole and my arm. So I'm going to cut it out and I'm going to sew it to the half muslin I have on my Dottie. Okay, so what I was saying before is, let me just finish taping this down over here. All right, let me just take this. I broke my pivot and I added about a 1/4 inch down here, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. And I tore my paper, so I'm going to put a piece of tape right here. All right, so this is going to be my completed pattern. I know that my shoulder notch is going to be in the center of what I added. So my shoulder notch is going to be right there. And my front notch, well, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to cut it out and we're going to sew it together. I'm dying to see if this fits my armhole. I'm going to grab myself a piece of muslin. Oops. Oh. All right, well, I just realized something else. I can't sew it to that because my bodice doesn't have any seam allowance, so I can't sew it. All right, so this is what we're gonna do. I can't sew it to my bodice because I don't have any seam allowance on that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on this later and I will show you next week. All right, so this is going to be our plan. I forgot that there's no seam allowance here, so I can't sew a sleeve onto here because there's no seam allowance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a new half bodice after I add seam allowances to the armhole, and then I'm going to sew it together and see if it works. And I'll post a picture in the community tab on my channel here, so if you want to check back and see it later, I'll have that posted. And then next week what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how this sleeve, I am going to shrink it 50% and I'm going to sew it into the armhole, which I'm going to have to make a new half of a bodice for her too, because she doesn't have a seam allowance in her armhole either. So that was a boo-boo on my part in the beginning, but I will fix that and I will sew them together and we'll share about that next week. So that's what we'll be doing next week. So next week we will be finishing up the mini and full-size DittoForm slopers. And then I can use those pieces to design new things, which I'm really excited about. But remember, I'm not going to be here the week after that. So the 7th of November, which is in 2 weeks from today, I will be in Indiana teaching pants fitting. So I won't be here for that week. If anybody is joining me on Sunday for this month's meetup for the J Stern Designs YouTube Insider Club, I just posted that meetup in the club, and the theme is going to be share your Halloween costume plans, or if you have photos of costumes you made for your kids or your grandkids and you want to share those. I put a picture of me holding my daughter Anna for her first Halloween. I made her a monarch butterfly costume, so that's what I'm going to be sharing. But I think it'll be fun to share Halloween sewing plans on Sunday. So if you're in the club and you want to join me, that's wonderful. If you want to join the club, I'll make sure there's a link in the description below when I get off. We're having a lot of fun in there. So thank you guys so much for watching me now. I really love getting together with you on Fridays. Bev, I'm happy that this was something you needed to do right now. And if you have any questions, you can post those and I will help you. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next week. All right. Bye-bye.